The conference room went dead quiet. I am talking about that kind of silence where you can hear the air conditioning humming. Victoria Garrison sat across from me, and I swear her smirk could have lit up the whole building. "You never understood legal papers, Rebecca," she said, leaning back like she owned the world. The attorney next to her, some guy whose suit probably cost more than my car, smiled that smile. "You know the one, the kind that says you are wasting everyone's time and you are too stupid to know it." I stood there holding two thick binders. My hands were not even shaking anymore. I had been terrified driving here, but now I just felt calm. I opened the first binder slowly, watching their faces. "Your permits are void," I said, keeping my voice low and steady. "I own the original $800 million patent." The smirk vanished. The attorney's smile died. Gordon Garrison, Victoria's father and the chief executive officer, actually went pale. That moment made 18 months of hell worth it. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. My name is Rebecca Vance, and until about 6 months before everything exploded, I was actually happy at Garrison Technologies. I had been their senior engineering lead for 15 years. 15 years of building their security platform from scratch, pulling all-nighters, and genuinely believing that I mattered there. Then things started changing, small things at first, little things that made my stomach twist. It started when Gordon hired Victoria. She had got her Master of Business Administration from Stanford, and Gordon wanted to bring her in as Vice President of Strategic Development. Nepotism is common in Silicon Valley, but when I noticed I was no longer invited to executive strategy meetings, my stomach twisted. When I asked Gordon's assistant, Justin, he looked away. "Victoria handles the strategy now," he muttered. "She will loop you in if she needs technical input," as if my 15 years of experience were optional. At the next all-hands meeting, Gordon spent 20 minutes praising Victoria for the new encryption platform I had invented, never mentioning my name once. He thanked her for her visionary leadership. I sat in the back of that auditorium, feeling invisible. My husband Scott noticed. "They are freezing you out, Rebecca," he warned over dinner while our kids Ian and Zoe were doing homework. "I do not know," I replied. "Maybe I am being paranoid." "You built the core product," Scott said. "If they are not including you, something is wrong." Scott is a smart guy. I should have listened. The final straw before they fired me came 3 weeks earlier. I had been working on Phase 3 of our enterprise security rollout. It was a huge project, a massive client, the kind of make-or-break deal that defines a fiscal year. I delivered the prototype 2 weeks ahead of schedule. The client presentation went perfectly. They signed a $12 million contract on the spot. I thought I would get recognition, maybe a bonus, or at minimum a thank you. Instead, Gordon sent a company-wide email praising Victoria's exceptional project management and the team's hard work. My name was buried in a list of 15 people like I was just another cog in the machine. That night, Scott found me on the back porch just staring at nothing. "They are going to fire you," he said quietly. I scoffed. "That is crazy," I said. "I just brought in $12 million. They are erasing you first." "Making it look like you are not essential," Scott said. "I have seen this before." Scott had worked in corporate tech for years before starting his own motorcycle repair business. He knew the games. I did not want to believe him. But 3 days later, on a Wednesday morning, my badge would not work. I dropped Ian and Zoe at school like always, kissed Scott goodbye, and drove to the Garrison Technologies campus in Mountain View. The building was all glass and steel, a place that had once filled me with pride. I swiped my badge. Nothing. Red light. Hank from security walked over, looking uncomfortable. "Mrs. Vance, you need to go straight to Human Resources, 2nd floor." My heart started hammering. "Why, Hank? What is going on?" "They are expecting you," he said, avoiding my eyes. "Stas." I took the stairs because my legs needed something to do. The Human Resources Director, Patricia Miller, was waiting in her office with a manila folder and a box of tissues on the desk. That is never a good sign. She could not look at me. "Rebecca, we are restructuring your department," she said, reading from a script. "Your position is being eliminated effective immediately." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. "Immediately?" I asked. "We have collected all your personal belongings," she said, gesturing to a cardboard box. "You can go now." She pushed the box across the desk. My coffee mug, the photo of Scott and the kids, a small plant that had been on my desk for 8 years. 15 years reduced to a cardboard box. Your severance package is quite generous, Patricia continued. 6-month salary, benefits continuation, neutral reference. She slid papers across the desk. Who made this decision? I asked. Executive leadership, she replied. Gordon, I just brought in a $12 million contract, I whispered. This is not about performance, Rebecca. It is organizational restructuring. I drove home in a daze, feeling entirely hollowed out by the sudden betrayal. I drove home in a complete fog, the steering wheel cold under my hands. Scott took one look at my face as I walked through the door and immediately put down the motorcycle carburetor he was cleaning. He did not ask questions, he just pulled me into a tight hug. They did it, I whispered into his shoulder. They gave me a box and told me to leave immediately. We sat on the back porch steps. It was only 11 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday, and my 15-year career was over. Maybe they are right, I said, staring at the small garden. Maybe I am too old, too expensive. Stop that, Scott said, his voice firm. This is not about your age or your salary. They are hiding something. Like what? I asked. I do not know yet, he said. But you do not rush a senior engineer out of the building with a cardboard box unless you are terrified of what they might access. That night, I could not bring myself to tell Ian and Zoe the truth. I just told them I was taking some time off work. Zoe, who was 13 and way too perceptive, gave me a long look that told me she knew I was lying, but she did not press. The next morning, Scott brought coffee to bed at 6 in the morning. He looked like he had not slept a wink. Get up, he said. You are not rolling over for this, Scott. What am I supposed to do? I asked. Sue them. We cannot afford that. You are going to figure out what they are hiding, he said. Start with your old files here at home. I spent Thursday going through everything I had saved over the years on my personal network drive. Old emails, design drafts, and documentation I had backed up. Around 2 in the afternoon, I found a folder from 2009 labeled Personal Projects. Inside was a patent application, not the final version Garrison Technologies had filed, but my original draft. It had handwritten notes, diagrams, and calculations for the adaptive encryption algorithm that became their entire security platform. I had filed a provisional patent in March 2009 in my own name. I had completely forgotten about it, because once I pitched the idea to Gordon, their legal team took over, and I had assumed everything had been transferred properly. I started digging deeper. I found the assignment agreement I had supposedly signed, transferring my rights to Garrison Technologies. Except something looked completely off. The date on the signature page said February 2009. I stared at that date for a full minute before it clicked. I could not have assigned rights to a patent I had not even filed yet. The assignment was dated a month before my provisional application. That was impossible. Either someone had backdated this document or they had screwed up the paperwork badly and nobody had caught it. My hands started shaking. This was not just a clerical error. This was potentially forgery and fraud. I called my old college roommate, Audrey West. We had been close friends for 20 years, and she was now one of the best intellectual property attorneys in San Francisco. We met at a quiet coffee shop in downtown Mountain View, away from anyone who might recognize me. I brought every document I had found. Audrey spread the pages across the table, her eyes growing wider with each paragraph she read. Holy hell, Rebecca, she whispered. Tell me I am not crazy, I said. You are not crazy, Audrey said, tapping the papers. This assignment agreement is completely invalid. You cannot assign rights to something that does not exist yet. This provisional patent is yours. The company's patent is derivative, and if your assignment is invalid, they have been using your intellectual property without authorization for 14 years. How much is it worth? I asked, feeling dizzy. Conservatively, Audrey said. $800 million, maybe more. Why would they fire me now? I asked. Audrey leaned back, thinking, when did they start pushing you out? About 6 months ago, I said, right after Victoria joined. And what is Victoria's role? Audrey asked. Strategic development, I said. She has been in a lot of meetings with investment bankers. Audrey's expression changed. They are selling the company, she said. I would bet money on it. They are preparing for a massive sale, and during due diligence, the buyers will check all the patents and ownership records. Someone found this problem and flagged it. So Gordon's solution was to eliminate the liability. The pieces fell into place. This was not about bringing in younger talent. This was about covering up fraud before a billion-dollar sale. I need to fight this, I said. Audrey grinned. Damn right you do, she said. And I am going to help you because this is too big to let them escape consequences. The next morning, instead of staying home defeated, I walked into the Garrison Technologies headquarters with Audrey. We went straight to the executive floor. Gordon's assistant, Justin, tried to block us. Mr. Garrison does not have any appointments, he said. Audrey handed him her card. Tell him Rebecca Vance is here regarding patent assignment irregularities from 2009, she said. He will want to take this meeting. 4 minutes later, we were in Gordon's corner office. Gordon stood behind his desk, his jaw tightening as he looked at us. Gordon did not offer to shake our hands. He looked at Audrey and asked who she was. Audrey West, intellectual property attorney representing Rebecca Vance, she said. Gordon's face remained rigid. Rebecca's termination was handled appropriately, he said. The severance package is generous. Audrey opened her briefcase and laid out the documents. We are not here about severance, she said. We are here about the adaptive encryption patent filed in November 2009. That is company property, Gordon said. Actually, it is not, Audrey replied. My client filed a provisional patent in March 2009. Your assignment agreement is dated February 2009. That makes it invalid, the color drained from Gordon's face. This is absurd, he stammered. Rebecca developed that technology while employed here. Our employment agreement covers all intellectual property created during her tenure. Audrey shook her head. The provisional patent was filed 6 months before she transferred to the encryption division, she said. She was in general systems engineering, working on hardware. This was independent work developed on her own time. That was the key detail. When I had created the algorithm, I was in a completely different department working on unrelated projects. I had developed it as a side project on weekends and only pitched it to Gordon months later. Gordon sat down heavily. What do you want? He asked. Full recognition of Rebecca's patent ownership, retroactive licensing fees, reinstatement of her position, and a formal apology, Audrey said. You are talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, Gordon hissed. Yes, we are, Audrey replied. Gordon's face turned red. I will bury you in legal fees, he shouted. You will spend every penny you have before you see a dime. I spoke up for the first time. Go ahead, I said. Let us do discovery. Let us depose everyone involved in that patent filing. Let us find out who backdated the assignment. Let us do it all publicly right as you are trying to sell the company. Gordon's eyes locked on mine. How did you know about the sale, he asked. I did not, I said, but you just confirmed it. The meeting ended with threats from Gordon, but we walked out knowing we had rattled him. Over the weekend, Victoria called me. My father is too stubborn to negotiate, she said. But I am practical. Let us meet Monday morning, just us. Off the record. I knew I should be careful, but I agreed. We met at a coffee shop in Palo Alto. Victoria was waiting with her laptop and a vanilla latte. She smiled, but it was cold. I want to resolve this situation, she said. My father is emotional, but I see this as a simple business problem. She slid a folder across the table. $2 million, full retirement benefits, and a confidentiality agreement, she said. You sign over any patent claims, and we part ways. $2 million was life-changing money. Scott and I could pay off the house, fund the kids' college, and never worry about bills again. But it was also about 1% of what the patent was actually worth. No, I said, pushing the folder back. Victoria's smile faltered. That is a very generous offer, she said. It is an insult, I replied. Your company has made hundreds of millions from my work. 2 million is a rounding error. We made that money from marketing, sales, and infrastructure, she snapped. You had one idea 15 years ago. That does not entitle you to hold the company hostage. I stood up. I am claiming what is legally mine, I said. If your father had not committed fraud and fired me to cover it up, we would not be here. Sit down, Rebecca, Victoria said, her voice dropping. We are not done. She turned her laptop toward me. On the screen was an email I had sent in 2011 to a colleague at another company. We had been discussing general encryption standards, and I had mentioned some technical specifications. This violates your non-disclosure agreement, Victoria said. You shared proprietary information with a competitor. That is grounds for termination with cause, which voids your severance and exposes you to criminal charges. My stomach dropped, but I forced myself to stay calm. That email was about industry standards, not company secrets, I said. Our lawyers disagree, Victoria smirked. We found 17 other instances of you potentially violating confidentiality. Emails, presentations, and social media posts. Take the $2 million and disappear, or we file suit for breach of contract and theft of trade secrets. We will freeze your assets and destroy your reputation. I remembered what Audrey had told me about intimidation. I pulled out my phone. Say that part again about freezing my assets and destroying my reputation, I said. Victoria went pale. Are you recording this? She asked. California is a two-party consent state, so I was not actually recording, but she did not know that. That is extortion, Victoria, I said. That is criminal. She grabbed her laptop and stood up. This meeting is over, she snapped. I walked out, my heart pounding, but I knew they were terrified. Audrey filed the formal patent claim on Tuesday morning. By the afternoon, Garrison Technologies' legal team had requested emergency mediation. On Wednesday, we sat in a large conference room with Gordon, Victoria, 3 of their attorneys, and a professional mediator named Dr. Fletcher. That was when Victoria laughed at my 2 binders. I had brought every piece of evidence Audrey and I had compiled. The first binder contained the patent documentation, and the second contained my personal records. Your permits are void, I said, laying out the provisional patent. I own the original patent. Gordon's lead attorney, Gerald Preston, cleared his throat. While there may be irregularities in the assignment document, our employment agreement states that all intellectual property developed during your tenure belongs to the company, he said. I opened the second binder. I was not in the encryption division when I developed this, I explained. I was in general systems engineering. I developed this on my own time using my own resources 6 months before I ever pitched it to Gordon. Can you prove that? Gerald asked. I showed him my personal notebooks from 2009, containing handwritten calculations that were all dated and notarized. I showed him emails to Scott discussing the concept and time-stamped files from my home computer. Gerald's expression got grimmer with each page. He whispered quietly to Gordon. Dr. Fletcher spoke up, suggesting we discuss a settlement. That was when Victoria made her mistake. She looked at me with pure contempt. We are not settling, she said. This is extortion. Dr. Fletcher raised an eyebrow. That is inappropriate, Mrs. Garrison, he said. It is true, Victoria insisted. She is a disgruntled employee trying to destroy this company out of spite. I stayed calm. I am an inventor claiming ownership of my own work, I said. The mediation fell apart and Gordon and Victoria walked out. They are going to fight this in court, Audrey said. Can we win? I asked. Yes, she said, but it is going to be brutal. She was right. The intimidation tactic started almost immediately. A black sport utility vehicle with tinted windows showed up across the street from my house on a Tuesday. It sat there with the engine running for hours. I called Audrey, who told me to get the license plate. When I walked outside to look, the vehicle sped away. Audrey tracked the plate and found it was registered to a private investigation firm hired by Garrison Technologies. They were following me. The vehicle appeared 3 more times that week. It was psychological warfare, and it was working. I could not sleep, and I kept checking the windows. Scott wanted to confront them, but Audrey warned us that was exactly what they wanted. The next few months were a complete nightmare. Garrison Technologies filed a motion to dismiss, which we fought. They challenged the validity of my provisional patent, and we defended it. They subpoenaed years of my personal emails and files. We complied but fought back with our own massive discovery requests. The worst part was the public smear campaign. Articles started appearing online painting me as a bitter ex-employee, filing a frivolous lawsuit. Someone leaked a performance review from 2013, where a manager had written that I was resistant to feedback, omitting the fact that the same review had given me the highest overall rating. Ian came home from school upset because kids were saying I was trying to steal money, and Zoe stopped using social media entirely. Scott had to take on extra freelance work to pay our living expenses because my severance had run out and we were burning through our savings to pay legal fees. There were nights I wanted to quit, But I remembered Victoria's laugh and Gordon's dismissal of my 15 years of work, and I kept going. But our pressure was working. The lawsuit killed the original acquisition deal. The buyer backed out within 2 weeks of my claim becoming public record. No company wanted to buy a business with a massive intellectual property lawsuit hanging over its core technology. Gordon spent months pitching to other firms, but their due diligence teams flagged the lawsuit immediately. He was stuck. He could not sell until the lawsuit was resolved, and he could not settle because Victoria had convinced him they would win in court. That is why it took 18 months to get a trial date. Gordon's lawyers kept filing motions to delay, hoping to bleed us dry. They requested extensions and filed procedural challenges, doing everything possible to drag it out. But Audrey was relentless, countering every delay tactic and bringing in a junior attorney named Nolan who believed in the case. Then, we got an unexpected break. Other people started coming forward. I received an email from a man named Walter Cobb, who had worked at Garrison Technologies 5 years before me. "I have information about Gordon Garrison's patent practices," the email read. "We met at a quiet diner in San Jose. Walter was in his 60s, gray-haired and tired. Gordon stole my work too," Walter said. "A compression algorithm he is still using. I did not fight it because I did not have the proof back then." "Why tell me now?" I asked. "Because you have a real shot at beating him," he said. "If I can help, I want to assist." Audrey was thrilled. This established a clear pattern of behavior. The deposition of Gordon Garrison took place in a high-rise conference room in downtown San Jose. Gordon sat across from Audrey with Gerald Preston beside him. Audrey started with simple questions about the company timeline, keeping her voice completely calm. Gordon was wearing a dark gray suit, but his collar seemed tight, and he kept adjusting his gold watch. Gerald Preston looked tense. His fingers drummed on the table. "Let us look at the metadata, Mr. Garrison," Audrey said, sliding a printed analysis across the table. "Our forensic analyst examined the digital files. The assignment agreement was saved on your servers in late April, but the document itself is dated February. How do you explain this discrepancy?" Gordon cleared his throat. "Paperwork is handled by our staff," he said. "I do not oversee every single stamp." "But you did oversee this one," Audrey countered, opening a manila folder. "You sent an email to your patent counsel on the very day my client filed her provisional patent. You wrote that the Vance algorithm needed to be filed under company ownership immediately and to handle the paperwork retroactively if necessary. What did you mean by retroactively?" Gerald Preston objected, but Audrey pressed. "Did you instruct your attorney to create an assignment agreement dated before Mrs. Vance's provisional patent filing?" Gordon stood up abruptly, shouting that this was harassment, but Gerald forced him to sit back down. "You are under oath, Mr. Garrison," Audrey said quietly. "The jury will draw their own conclusions if you refuse to answer." Gordon sat in silence, and for the first time, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. He looked at Victoria, who sat in the gallery with her arms crossed, her heels tapping against the floor. 2 weeks later, Victoria confronted me in a parking garage after I left Audrey's office. She marched toward me, shouting that I was destroying lives and that 70 employees had been laid off because of my lawsuit. "Your father destroyed those jobs when he committed fraud," I replied, getting into my car. She slammed her hand against my window as I drove away. They tried to claim I had threatened her, but Audrey shut it down immediately using the parking garage security footage. The breakthrough came during discovery when Nolan found a smoking gun. It was a memo from Gerald Preston to Gordon, dated March 2009, outlining 3 options for handling my patent. He could negotiate a fair licensing agreement, have me sign a proper assignment, or create documentation to support a retroactive transfer of rights. Gordon had handwritten a note at the bottom. Option 3, keep this quiet. This was clear evidence of a conspiracy to commit fraud. When the judge admitted the memo as evidence, Gordon's legal team offered a $50 million settlement. I looked at Audrey, thought about the 15 years of lies, and refused. We went to trial. The trial lasted 3 weeks in federal court in San Jose. The air inside the room was heavy, smelling of old leather and floor wax. Judge Evelyn Hall sat on the bench, looking down at the lawyers with a sharp, no-nonsense gaze. Our forensic document examiner, a quiet man named Peter Latimer, took the stand. He explained that the signature had been scanned and merged into the document weeks after I was terminated. When the memo was presented, the courtroom went completely silent. The text was clear, projected on the large screen. Under cross-examination, Audrey walked Gordon through the memo line by line. "Mr. Garrison, is this your handwriting?" she asked. "Yes," he muttered. "And did you choose option 3? Gordon looked at his attorneys, at Victoria, and then at the jury. "I did what was necessary to protect my company's interests," he admitted. The jury deliberated for 2 days. They found that I was the rightful owner of the patent, that the company's use was unauthorized, and awarded $320 million in compensatory damages and $100 million in punitive damages, a total of $420 million. Garrison Technologies appealed, but the decision was upheld 9 months later. Gordon was forced to sell the company to pay the judgment, and the business was broken up and sold for parts. Gordon retired in disgrace, and Victoria left the technology sector entirely. 6 months later, I rented a small brick office in downtown San Jose. It had high ceilings and big windows that let in the morning light. I hung a sign on the door, "Advanced Security Solutions." We built our company on the principle that every engineer shares in the licensing revenue of their work. Walter Cobb was my first hire. We sat in the empty office on the first day, drinking coffee out of paper cups. "We are going to build this the right way, Walter," I said. He smiled, his gray eyes crinkling. "The money changed our lives. Scott opened his custom motorcycle shop. Ian is studying computer science, and Zoe is interning at Audrey's law firm. But the money was never the point. The point was standing up and refusing to let them erase my work." The 2 binders sit on a shelf in my office today as a reminder that truth and documentation matter. Victoria had laughed at those binders because she thought power came from corporate titles. She was wrong. Real power comes from being right and having the courage to stand your ground.